dura abatio. Awio. Amoyeo. She speaks to present Pan Butter Press. Diritulo Beneo. Minuapuo. Tenre labire. Tenre ke pawase. Minwao.
Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Joy from She Speaks Too. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe. Now, how are you? How's everyone? How you doing? How your mama doing? How's everyone doing? If you're thinking about moving to Liberia, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the salaries of people who you employ to work in your home. I think that's very important to kind of have a starting point or a middle point. You could go higher. I would hope you wouldn't go lower than what I pay, but you go higher, but at least have a starting point. I was asked this a lot of times in emails or under my videos, like how much would I pay? How much should I pay for security? How much should I pay for house help? How much should I pay for a driver? And I would always give a range and not give the specific amount, because that was what was also done to me. No one would tell me how much they were paying their people. They would always give me a range. And I think the fear was that maybe I would think it was too low or think they were being cheap. And then I also adapted adapted that also and started giving people just like a range. I wouldn't tell people how much I actually paid people that work for me. And I think we should, and I think that it would be helpful. I think we don't give it out of fear of criticism. And usually the criticism comes from people who have a Western mentality, who have a Western income level in their mind. But we're talking about Liberia, and we're talking about employing people, and we ourselves are just private citizens. I'm not an entity. I'm a private citizen. So the price range that I can give is what I can give. And I hope with good treatment and all that stuff, it helps someone's family. And I want to preface this. Usually when I do these type of videos, like I get comments about why do you need house help? Why do you need a driver? Or when you're in America, you didn't have all these things. And usually it's from people who haven't been to Liberia since JJ Rawa's time. And they don't know how hard it is. Me, I didn't grow up in Liberia. I didn't start driving in Liberia. So for me, the driving is chaotic. As a woman, it's dangerous. And so I do need a driver. The rules are not followed. If you running late, you just make a third lane, or if traffic is backed up, I've seen fourth lanes, and it's dangerous. There are times where there are roadblocks where you don't understand what's going on. So as a woman, for me, I do need a driver. My husband does not have a driver, but for me, I feel like a driver is a necessity. And there are some women, and I have friends and even family members, female family members, who feel comfortable and they drive. But I have never driven. The only place I have driven in Liberia is to my property because it's in the bush. So I've driven there. So that's why I need a driver. So let's stop with these comments about why you need this person. Number two, why do you need house help? You need house help because everything in Liberia is 10 times harder. Going to the market to buy the food. There's not a Swifter mop. There's an actual mop. And I don't even mop in America, so I'm not going to mop in Liberia. And there are so many things that you just need help with that you don't know. So a house help is very valuable. Why do you need security? That's self-explanatory. The break-ins, the armed robbery, they're common. And so you need security in your fence to help you to mind your gate and to make sure that your house is safe when you're not there. So that's self-explanatory. It's not like you go to Liberia and all of a sudden become this rich person. I need a driver, I need house help, I need security. But those are common things that you need in order to make your life run smoother. And if you want to have that Western mentality where I did it in America, I can do it in Liberia, do it. That's great. But for me, I couldn't handle it. Everything was 10 times harder in Liberia, and I needed all the help I could get. Now, as far as having a nanny and stuff, I take care of my child. You know, it's good to have someone in the house where you can say, oh, I'm running somewhere, which that hardly happened. Can you watch Sienna? It's good to have someone in the house that could do that. But for the most part, I watch my child. I didn't have a nanny that actually took care of my child. I needed help with the things that I couldn't do and keep up with. Like I said, everything is 10 times harder in Liberia. And if you haven't been there since JJ Rawa's time, don't put your mouth there. Don't step foot. You got to come and tell you the prices and the different things to pay people in Liberia. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we moved to Liberia 2020. And I wasn't gainfully employed. Like every now and then I would do something here and there, but I'm a registered nurse, but there wasn't anything that I could find that would suit me as far as pay and the type of job that I would want. I no longer want to do bedside nursing, and I didn't find anything that was going to be elevating to my career. That's a side note. Anyway, so moved to Liberia in 2020. And so I'll tell you what we paid people that worked for us. Keep in mind, I'm not employed, and I'm not an entity. I'm not a governmental agency. I'm just one person hiring one person to pay one person. So the judgment that you have for the payment, just zip it, because like I said, if you haven't been to Liberia, you don't understand, or if you haven't been there since Gigi Rawa's time. So let's talk about security. We paid our security $125 a month, and we raised it because we raised it to $150. There has never been a time where he's had to ask us for our pay. We pay him on time, and so it's $150. He does a great job. He only did night shift, and then day shift we had someone else who came, and that person made $125. So we had two security. So keep in mind that's $150 and then $125. Only one person. I'm not a governmental agency or entity or NGO. One person. So we had to pay night security and day security because you need to make sure your place is safe. So that was it. Then I had a driver. I paid the driver. He had a friend who was working. My cousin works for this big agency, and I asked her, do you know of any drivers? She said, my boss's driver. Keep in mind, her boss's driver has a friend, and that a friend is sent to me. Let's call him Paul. So Paul came to me, and because Paul friend, I tell him how much he makes as a driver for the big boss, Paul friend came and asked for $175. I told him I can't do $175. It's high. It's too much for me. So I could do $150. Keep in mind, his friend works for this big boss, and his friend probably told him $175. And so anyway, I could do $150. So I had a driver, $150 a month. I'm not a going out person. So primarily he came in the morning. We took Sienna to school. Then he rested in between, and then we picked up Sienna. And then every now and then I would have a function or something to go to in the evening or on Saturday, and he would take me. And then he definitely had Sundays off. So he got paid $150. He requested $175, but I gave him $150. Then we had house help. This story is interesting. So someone recommended her, and she came. She told me that she used to work for a Lebanese man, and he was paying her $175. So she told me she was working with. So I said, okay. I don't know if I can do $175, but come to the house and let's do a trial. She came to my house. She said she was working. So she came to my house. I was showing her how I want the dishes done and stuff like that. She didn't know how to put the pump on. She didn't know how to use running water. And then the dish soap, there's a certain kind of soap that they use. It's a bar soap to wash dishes in Liberia. Most people use it, but I was using the same dish soap that from America, like Dawn or whatever dish soap. So she didn't know how to open it. So I look at her, I said, and you say you work for this big family? And she was very vague about which Lebanese man she worked for. Oh, I know he read me. I used to call him Uncle so-and-so or something like that. And I'm like, okay, he didn't have running water. Oh, he had running water. And I said, well, why don't you know how to use running water here? So we left that woman. Then I was showing her the shower. She didn't know how to put the shower on. She didn't know how to flush the commode. She didn't know how to do a lot of things. So I said, you sure you work for somebody, big man? You say he has shops and stuff? She said, yeah. So the next day she came, she said, Ma, I want to tell you something. I didn't work for no Lebanese man. And I said, I know. You didn't know about running water. You didn't know about dish soap. You didn't know about this. And she confessed that she told me that she worked for a Lebanese man, made $175 in order so I could pay her the same. But the fact that she didn't know certain things, she told on herself. And so it turned out that she had been working for a woman, a designer. She said one designer, and she confirmed that she was making $80 a month working for this person. And so she had lied and said she was making 175 working for a Lebanese man. And I'm not mad at her. $80 is too low, so I'm sure she didn't want to make that. So I'm not mad at her. She told me she made 175. She confessed that that was not true. So I told her I could meet her halfway. I could pay her 125, and then we could do 150 when she stayed like 3-4 months, which it went up to 150. So so we have the security at night 150, security at day 125. We have the driver 150, then we have the house help 125. And not one day on my children did anyone have to come and say, "Oh my, been 1 week, you pay us." They got their pay the day before the first. And if there were extra things that happened during the month, they got extra. Like if it was a holiday, or if there was a holiday, or if it was somebody's birthday, or if I just decided, let buy pop and let make soup and stuff. And so there were extras. And on top of that, I made sure that everyone had transportation, because transportation is a big thing in Liberia. They call it kape, money kape. So I help with transportation, and meals were provided daily. So the house help cooked, and when she cooked, what we ate, she ate. The security ate, the driver ate. So nobody had to worry about meals once they were working for me. So that is what I paid people. And keep in mind, I knew of someone who was very, very wealthy, and I'm paying when I'm talking 7 figures wealthy, and I'm not 7 figures wealthy. I was barely 5 figures. I was 4 figures. Anyway, I'm paying my house help 125, 150, and they were paying theirs 300. So relatively, I think that that's what I could do. So just keep that in mind. Then let's talk about nursing salary. I'm a registered nurse, go to Liberia. I did an interview for a job. And when I say I was shocked, I did an interview from the job and they offered me the position. Keep in mind, I paid my driver 150. Keep in mind, I got to buy gas. The offer was $500 a month, and they had increased it in order to accommodate me, and I was going to be making more than a charge nurse who was making $300 a month. So this is a degreed licensed professional nurse. She makes $300 a month, and they upped mine because maybe they saw the American woman and they were going to give me $500 a month. Then I later got another job offer to be a registered nurse, and it was $1,200, and it was working Monday through Saturday. So it was a 6-day work week. I didn't take it. It was a good position. I didn't take it, not because I was working on some other things then, so I didn't take it. But keep in mind, those are the salaries for a licensed nurse. Most nurses in Liberia make between the $200 and $300 range. So, and these are licensed professionals. So the house help I'm not using a degree. I don't care if you have a degree here for house help. So a licensed degree person is making about $300. So keep that in mind. So obviously that shows you that people are not making a lot in Liberia. And I can't afford to pay more. I couldn't afford to pay more than that. I wish I could. But that's what I could afford, and that's what I could pay. And I would like to think that being kind doesn't make up for empty belly, being kind and nice, but it does make it better to know you're going to an employer who treats you with respect and is kind to you. Like I said, being kind doesn't pay school tuition, doesn't pay this. It doesn't help with empty belly, but it does make it a little bit better. And what I could do, I did. If there was a tuition or if there was a burial, like the security lost someone, I took money to the family. I've paid tuition. So what I could do during hardship, I did. But so that is it. I would like you guys to leave a comment, tell me what you think, and we'll go from there. This is Joy from She Speaks Too. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you later.